Welcome to another episode of the Hector Mike Experience, Common Sense in Uncommon World. And Mike, the Dodgers have been making blockbuster moves. They got Otani. They they're going out there and trying to grab a couple more different players. But really, I think the blockbuster move that we're going to talk about here is not just the grabbing Otani, but grab the way they did this, the way they structured this contract. It's
Hmm.
it's it's a gigantic contract, that they're offering him, or that they've offered him about $700 million, but it's the way it got structured out. And so, interesting part is they're going to be paying him $2 million every single year for year 1 through 10. And then on year 11 through 20, they're going to end up paying him $68 million for those remaining years. And so, he's probably going to, he may be out of baseball, maybe playing somewhere else, but whatever it is. But that structure was done on purpose.
Oh
That
yeah.
structure was done in order to save the amount of taxes that he would have to pay, especially here in California, where the and I'm going to be reading here from the California Center for Jobs in the Economy, and they ended up. I mean, they did a fantastic job, and we'll make sure we put this on the link into our description. But they basically said, look, if we paid them all up front, the $70 million, it would be subject to California's highest in the nation 13.3% income tax, plus an additional 1.1% based on the expansion of the California state disability insurance tax. By deferring the $68 million a year, it likely enables a tax bite to be avoided altogether. And here's how they calculated it out. They said, look, sure, he's going to pay taxes on the $2 million a year. But that other $68 million that he gets on year 11, 12, 13, all the way to 20, he can go move to another state that doesn't have state income taxes. He can go move to another state that has, that isn't going to penalize him the way it is here. And he could potentially avoid the California taxes, which, if you were getting the $70 million, and it's the charts and information is in the link. He basically saves himself about $9.8 million, if not more, every single year, which turns out to be about $98 million throughout the course of this contract
That he wouldn't be paying the state of California.
that he would not be paying the state of California. Yeah.
Geez, that's a whole nother homeless pot of money that's gone.
Oh,
Um,
it is. And, to add to this, Mike, is,
Actually, I'm just thinking that could be that was Gavin Newsom's plan to solve the budget deficit right there.
yeah. Well, it gets further complicated. You've got the Los Angeles Times that put out a story recently, and we'll make sure we put it in the description, that over the last 3 years, California has been losing more of its residents. They're moving to
Mhm.
other states.
Yeah.
But it's also, I think, the important thing, and you and I kind of chit chatted about this off air, is the type of people that are moving. It isn't that just you just got regular Joes like you and I that are moving out, 'cause, and we're still here, but you've got certain types of people that are moving out.
Right. It's California's become an inverted pyramid, where what you used to have is a large base of people that paid taxes into the pot of money that went to a small group of people. So it was like this. Now it's the other way around. It's like this, or like that. You have a large group of people that use social services and help from the government and all of that kind of stuff, and a very small group of people, as it comes down like this, that are paying for all of that. So it's now an inverted pyramid, which is a recipe for complete and total failure, which is actually what we're seeing. All of a sudden, when the needle from the federal government of all that infusion that came because of COVID and fiscal relief because of the pandemic is taken out of the arm of California. Now all of a sudden they go from $100 billion surplus to a $68 billion deficit. So it's disaster is coming. I think people see it. Um, and in the case of Otani, I think what you see is both the Dodgers and whoever Otani is using to do his management, um, more professional. I don't know who they are. I have no clue who they are, but whoever they are, more professional athletes should use them because clearly they got a brain to them and they're figuring all of this stuff out. What the only part of the story that worries me that you just described is that California is ingenious when it comes to grabbing money. What is it? Getting water from a stone. We're the stones, the taxpayers, and they find new ways to get water from us. And so, maybe they pass something that says, if your first name begins with an O and ends with an I, and you make more than X millions of dollars, you have to pay money. And it would pass the legislature if they knew that it was going to result in $98 million in tax revenue. So, he needs to worry about that, just, in case he's listening to the podcast. And by the way, my arm is loosening up here for the Dodgers if they have any money left. But that's the only thing I see in the downside. Is, by the way, it's also a great thing for the Dodgers, what they, the way they structured it, so that they can go out and get other players, so they don't have to, like, I mean, prices, as you know, for Dodger games is already, some of the highest in the country. They don't have to all of a sudden, jack up prices 50% to pay for Otani's salary. So he does a great thing within the organization, for the team, for the community, and for himself.
Yeah.
And, this, I mean, I know it's on a much smaller level, but this as well as anybody. What we see on that particular day of him pitching or hitting, there's a whole lot of work that goes into that. It doesn't, he doesn't roll out of bed, put on a jersey, go to the ballpark and play the way he plays. There is a lot of work that happens that none of us see, day in and day out, with training and practice and everything else. And, I say God bless him for being able to do that and be able to make that kind of money. I got no qualms with that.
I got no qualms with it either, or anyone else who goes out there and makes money in an honest way. And the thing is that you've got a lot of folks, and it becomes important. I know you brought this up on the deficit. California this year is expected to have a $68 billion deficit, and unlike the federal government, the state does not print money, and so it's got to find ways to try to balance it out. Now, luckily, the state does have a what's called a rainy day fund, so it has money in reserves that it could be used to kind of plug up the hole. But at the same time, you've got already the governor that has asked its departments to start making cuts, to stop buying things, in anticipation of trying to figure out a way to plug in this hole. But $68 billion is a lot of money, and what you're going to see. I've had a couple of different meetings with different associations, and what they're afraid that's going to happen is you're going to start seeing kind of hidden taxes that are coming in this next year, but they may be in the form of a fee. So, for example, there's this one fee called the mill tax, and that is a tax on fertilizer. Well, this fertilizer is utilized to grow our plants, is utilized to grow food, and so they're looking to maybe put an increase of the tax on that mill,
Hmm.
the mill tax, increase it, but in reality, what it becomes, it's a food tax,
Right.
because eventually when it gets into the grocery store, when it gets into the restaurant, the price of that food is higher, and we're going to have to pay for the higher price.
Hmm.
But the way they do it is by doing it with fertilizers. Like, oh no, we're just increasing fertilizer, for example.
Right.
and
Has
it and
nothing
it
to do
seems
with
so
you.
far removed, right? It seems so far removed that we as a consumer are like, oh, I guess it costs more for an apple. I guess it costs more for an orange, or I guess it costs more to eat my salad, or whatever else it may be, or my French fries cost more. And so that's one way that the government does it. They also do it by increasing the fees over at the DMV, increasing the fees when you want to make a photocopy or get a copy of your marriage certificate.
Hmm.
They'll jack up the prices there. And I think for a lot of folks, including myself, is I'm okay paying for something as long as I know where the money's going, as long as I know that that money is being utilized for the benefit of that department, it's being utilized for the benefit of the state. But it's when you start jacking up all these fees, it's just a nickel and dime, nickel and dime, nickel and dime. And so when you look at people like Otani, or you look at other individuals who don't make $700 million on a contract over 10 years, but you look at individuals that are making $1 million or making 500,000 or 300,000 or $250,000, and you've got the state that is nickel and diming you every opportunity you get. Oh, they've got the choice. They've got the opportunity to go buy
Yeah.
a house, or go to live in Texas, go live in Tennessee, go live somewhere else
Right.
where they don't have to pay a state income tax. But it's important to realize that it's just not the state income tax. There's a couple of folks that I do work with, and one of them's moved over to Texas, another one's moved over to Tennessee, another one's moved over to Florida. And the one from Texas was an interesting conversation. He said, Hector, he goes, I'm not just saving the 13% in the state income tax. He goes, my gas prices are lower,
Hmm.
my energy cost is lower. He
Hmm.
goes, for what I sold my house here in California, he goes, I was able to buy a bigger house with less money. So I'm saving myself on the cost of the house.
Hmm.
And he goes, my wife and I kind of calculated out, because not only when is your gas prices lower, your energy prices, but your food prices are lower.
Hmm.
And he was able to calculate out, and he's like, look, by just moving to Texas, I'm saving about 28% to 32% every single month in costs.
Right.
Now that is some real money. That
And
is some real money that our people are saving. Yeah.
mhm. And even things like going to, like you said, going to the DMV and registering your car, and you watch the price go up and up, but the value is not going up. All of those kinds of things does nickel and dime you, and that's why you do see the other statistic you mentioned, which was, you know, tens of thousands of people that left the state in 2023, according to the figures that came out. And, it's going to continue to be that way. It's going to be an exodus, I think, because you reach the breaking point with people, because they'll pay more money. People will pay more money for a result,
Hmm.
and you don't have a result. You don't have better schools, even though we pay as much money, or as much money goes into the school. The failure rate in public schools is still as high as it's ever been. So you don't see the result of the money going in there. The roads are no better than what they were. The air is no cleaner than what it has been. Those kinds of tangible quality of life things. The food is certainly more expensive. All of those tangible quality of life things, um, you're willing to pay more for. Even if you don't have kids in school, the fact that if the schools are good, people will want to come and get into that school district, and the value of your property will go up. That doesn't happen here. If you feel safe in your community, again, the value of your property goes up. That doesn't happen here. So, more and more people will see money being spent but no result for it. And that's why people look at it and they say, you know what? Yeah, it's, sunny out and, 65 degrees in December. Not many places around the country can say that. But, when you go to, this is a great example. You go to a hotel, you go to Vegas, okay? You go to Vegas, or you go to Palm Springs, and it's like, hey, I got a great deal on the hotel. It was $149 a night. And then you get your bill at the end of the thing, and there's a $50 resort fee every day. So you can watch HBO on TV and whatever it is that they kick you for. You can go to the pool. That's what California has. California has a resort fee. So that in December, when it's 65 degrees and sunny, and the rest of the country is either bundled up or wearing raincoats, it's nice here. Well,
Hmm.
it's reaching a point where that resort fee is not worth it. And so you look at it and you say, as a resident, yeah, I can pay X amount or X percent more, in the case of your friend from Texas, 28 to 32% more to live in California and have sunshine in December and be able to go out in a light jacket, or I can save that money, buy a place in Texas, and be able to go on vacation in Cancun with Ted Cruz.
Right.
I mean, so that there are choices people make. The ones I feel bad for are the people that are stuck here that don't have that choice,
Right.
because they're the ones that get screwed day in and day out. We're here by choice. Okay, I think it's safe to say, we have the wherewithal and the capability to pack up tomorrow and move someplace else. We're here by choice for whatever reason. In your case, your kids. In my case, my family, my wife. Um, but other people don't have that. They're here. They're stuck here, and they don't have that option. And so what happens is they're the ones that feel the brunt of it, not only out of their pocket, but the weight on their shoulders, because it's not a choice that they're making. They don't have the wherewithal to make that choice. They're stuck in this thing, and they're the ones that get screwed every day.
Well, and the thing is too is every single time we go and the state government or or even your local government goes out and adds another cost, adds another fee, adds another burden over to your budget. You're what you're doing is you're chopping down some of you're chopping down some of the paycheck, but you're also making it more difficult for people to survive. You're increasing your roles of people that are becoming, that need the government help, that need the government assistance, that need a renters assistance program, that needs
Right.
Section 8, that needs to go to a food
Heating
bank, or that need to
assistance.
go to the church to go get additional food that is
Right.
provided by the church. And so
that
you're
that
creating more
becomes
people in
part of
need.
that pyramid. That
Right.
becomes part of the people that used to be here, not necessarily at the top, but the wage earners here that paid into this to help the people. It's now flipped. They're becoming the people that are dependent, and there are less and less people to be able to provide the support for that. But I got to tell you, I mean, that's the working people of California. There is no more middle class in California. I mean, that's one of the problems here. But the other problem is what we see across America, which is because we have open borders, and because we have sanctuary cities, and because we have sanctuary states, you not only have the people that have been here that need that support, you have all of these other illegals that are coming across the border who we have no idea who they are being added to that equation. And that means more and more money going out of your pocket to help people who you don't even know if they, first of all, they're not here legally. Second of all, you have no idea if they're here to do harm to you or your family or your children or your community. But because of the policies that we have in places like California, Illinois, New York, we still have to pay for it. It adds more to it. And I think people are voting with their feet that can. The tough part is the people that can't.
Right. And part of what Mike is saying is, there's a there's a there's a fight right now over in New York, where the mayor of New York has basically indicated that they're going to be cutting back on a lot of different social programs, because the amount of people that are undocumented illegal that are coming into the state, into the city of New York, they're going to have they're spending all this money to provide housing, to provide other social services for them. And now you've got the teachers union in New York that is, I don't know if have filed a lawsuit, or they're getting into a
Mm-hmm.
public fight, or they filed a
No,
lawsuit.
they filed a lawsuit against the mayor for the draconian measures that he's taken in terms of public education and the
Right.
money
and
that they're getting.
and and part of it is, yeah, he's looking to cut their money. Basically, he's looking to cut programs, and so they're suing him over the programs that he's cutting, because this money is having to go provide housing. Same thing happens here in California. We got, several years back, we ended up passing a car tax that was supposed to be I'm sorry, a gas tax that was supposed to be money that went to go for road repairs.
Hmm.
3, 4, 5 years later, we still have the worst roads in the nation. And so people then ask, okay, where the heck is this money going to? What is it being used for?
Right.
Where's the accountability for it? And when Mike talks about a middle class, yeah, we have a shrinking middle class, and what we're doing is create the income gap is widening, and we're creating a bigger section between the haves and the have-nots. and that has made things a lot more difficult for in California, because those, as Mike said, those that can afford it are leaving. And it's not that just they're taking their income. A lot of these folks, and we're California is very, very dependent on the wealthy to pay the majority of the taxes. But it's not just their income; it's their stocks that they have, it's their investments that they have,
Hmm.
because the state can charge up to 36, 40% on some of these investments that they have when they cash them out. And so when people are cashing them out in other states, California loses that revenue.
Right. And they're doing it all the time. They're smarter. People have woken up, and it doesn't take having a fancy lawyer the way some of the millionaires, billionaires have. They just have some common sense solutions, which is I'm going to go put my money somewhere else. And I think that's the reckoning that's coming, because while they're doing that, there's more and more people coming in, and more, first of all, more and more people coming in that need to use the services, or being promised these services, and more people who used to be in the category of the people that provided the revenue to help people that were less fortunate. They're becoming more and more of the less fortunate. And that's why I say this state is upside down, and I don't know how. I really do not know how it gets turned right side up. We
Well,
saw it get turned right side up for a brief moment, because the federal government between 2020 and 2023 injected a whole bunch of money into states, especially a state like California. Now that that needle has been taken out of the arm, it's not. It can't stand on its own two. The state cannot stand on its own 2 feet.
yeah, and I would suggest that, as we're going into 2024, you've got an election season. One of the common sense things you can do is look at the messaging coming in from your candidates. I mean, granted, I know that it's advertisement that you're going to be getting, and we always joke around. You're being courted by their representative, might not by the real person themselves, because of all this advertisement. But also, I mean, pay attention to some of the wording. Is we've got more government services, we've got more programs available for people. That's just code word for we're gonna make it more difficult for people to do business in California, and we're gonna do more of the same. Look for the other folks who have maybe some of the a background in business, who maybe have been accomplished in their job, not individuals that are just have nothing else, and all they've done is government work.
Mm-hmm.
Who have some private sector experience. I mean, I think that
Are
becomes
there
important.
people out there in the legislature that have that? Let me
I
see
think
here.
becomes important though is look at their background, look at where they come from, and can they write up this place, because the way it's going right now, it's just, especially with the $68 billion deficit maybe facing next year. The last thing we need to do is just increase taxes, put a food tax on the table, put additional fees or cost to people, because it especially is not just going to hurt those that are the working class, but look at all those people that we have that are on fixed incomes.
When I moved out here 23 years ago, um, one of the things that struck there were two things that struck me. One, they had term limits, which I thought was always a good thing. And second, they had an initiative process so that you could bypass the elected officials and take it right to the people. 23 years later, I am a strong advocate that both of those things ain't worth a hill of beans, because what you have in the legislature, especially in California, is you get term limits, and then somebody runs for something else, and someone from their family runs for something else. It's a career path, and the term limits doesn't work. The initiative and referendum thing has become a who has the deepest pockets to put their special interest on the ballot, and then convince people who are too busy who are working and traveling and stuck on the 405 to pay attention to the issues and see what you end up with. I think both of those things that could be good things for democracy have been completely polluted in California, from my perspective. Um, and people should take note of that. I think the other common sense solution is, you really have to you have to take a risk. You really have to take a risk if you're a voter in this state and say, You know what? I'm not going to listen to anything you say. Have you been there? Yes. How long have you been there? 10 years. Okay, you're out. I don't even know who the name of the person is that's running against you. You're out because what has happened over in the state over the last 10 years, is not sustainable, and the only way you do it is to change it. Will it be a change for the better or for the worse? We don't know, but you know what? Time to roll the dice. That's how I would look at it.
Well, there you go, Mike rolling the dice. So,
Oh no, two deuces.
well, thanks, Mike. Is let's see what moves the Dodgers make next, and
I'm
you know,
available.
well, and
Steel
here's the thing.
third.
Yeah, you're right, and I'll be interested to see is what does the legislature come up with now that when they come back in January. Do they try to figure out a tax system
An
or
Otani tax.
an Ohtani tax? Yeah, especially being able to defer that money to try to get it back. So we'll see what happens
Let
there,
me
Mike.
let me just tell you something. While you and I are drinking eggnog this week and next week, there's some people in Sacramento trying to figure out coming up with an Otani tax. I can guarantee that.
Yep. Well, we'll see what happens. Thanks, Mike.